Hello, everyone. According to my machine here, recording has started. So healthy good day to you. This week's lesson is on Christianity, and it's scheduled for the 22nd of November. So seeing this, it'll be Monday, the 22nd of November. That's when you receive this, and hopefully you'll be viewing it. Okay. So we're going to look at the broad view of Christianity, not the separate movements later of Lutheranism and baptism and different things like that. So we're going to look at the broad initial overview of Christianity. Okay. So let me move on to the material. Go to the share screen. Now that I'm here. There we go. I was waiting for that. I'm like, I got to minimize myself, and I didn't show up, but there I am sneaking in there. Okay. So now that I'm minimized, I'll proceed on to the beginning of the slideshow. All right. Okay, so again, the title of the class is Introduction to the World's Religions. Okay, I'll let you take a peek at this really quick. Again, the important part is, it's for the 22nd of November, which means in a couple of days, it'll be Thanksgiving, and I wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Eat a lot of turkey. See if you can get a pumpkin pie. I probably won't be able to find a pumpkin pie this year. I don't know why, but I won't be able to find one. Okay, there it is, just to let you know. Okay. All right, now I can start reading the material. There's the big title there, Christianity. Okay, again, I'm going to minimize myself even more, just to be on the safe side. Okay. So Christianity arose from Judaism, which means it sprung from Judaism. So Judaism was first, and Christianity was born from Judaism. And then it rapidly developed, so we know rapidly means quickly, as a faith with a separate identity from Judaism, based on the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, not Jesus of K-Town, like I've had some funny students say before, and they refer to him as the Christ, right? Jesus Christ. There are many different denominations. That's what I was saying in the intro. You could be Methodist, Protestant, whatever. So there are many different denominations within Christianity. They have evolved over the years, often because of disagreements about teachings or through different ways of worshiping. Most, however, agree on the basic tenets or facts of the faith. The story of Jesus Christ's ministry and an early history of Christianity are contained or held within the New Testament of the Holy Bible. Okay. Right. Origins or beginnings and development. The founder of Christianity, Jesus of Nazareth, 4 BC through AD 29, lived in Palestine during the height of the Roman Empire. In Palestine at the time of Jesus, the political situation of the Jews was chaotic or crazy, right? Same kind of meaning. They had been in servitude, which means they were slaves for nearly 100 years, were extensively taxed by their masters, the Romans, and were suffering from increased internal conflict or turmoil or problems within their own ranks of people. The main source of this conflict was the rivalry, that's when two different sides fight each other, between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Okay. The Sadducees were a priestly sect or group that had flourished or succeeded for about 2 centuries before the Second Temple of Jerusalem was destroyed by fire in August AD 70. The sect was made up of aristocratic families, so that's like high society, and merchants, business people. The wealthy elements of the population who clung or stuck to birthright and social and economic position. They tended to have good relations with their Roman rulers and generally represented the conservative view within Judaism. So remember that being the conservative view. Their immediate rivals or enemies, the Pharisees, claimed to be authorities on piety and learning. So piety is like a submissive, by the book, by the rule, faith, where you're, really pious. Okay, that's where you get the word piety. They were seen as a political party concerned with the laws of rabbinic traditions. Rabbis in the Jewish faith are the equivalent of priests in the Christian faith, especially in its holiness code, including dietary laws, things that you should eat and should not eat, and agriculture or farming rules governing the fitness of food for Pharisaic consumption or eating, and the observance of the Sabbath and festivals. Okay. I think I have a little bit here more. Okay, yes. The core difference between the Sadducees, okay, and the Pharisees was the interpretation of the content and the extent of God's revelation to the Jewish people. The Sadducees, because of their willingness to compromise with the Roman rulers, so compromise, it means you'll do what they say if they'll kind of help you on another level, aroused the hatred of the common people, which made common people hate them. A third group of Jews, the Essenes, a virtual monastic, so those are monks, brotherhood of property sharing communities, devoted to lives of disciplined piety, there's the piety again, considered the world too corrupt to allow Judaism to renew itself, so they dropped out of any conflict. They didn't want to participate in anything. They felt the world was too evil. Okay, it's the way it was. Lastly, it was into this complex, which means complicated, political religious cauldron. Cauldron is a big cooking pot that's very, very hot. So these issues are all cooking there. That Jesus added a further or another element of dissension, which means when you do not agree and go against whatever the rules are of your society at the time. All right. That was a mouthful for me to say. Oh, wow. Okie dokie Maroki. So, I got to have at least a question there. So let me go to that. First question of the day. Get that pencil. So again, I always like to start with the easy peasy lemon squeezy. Should be able to squeeze this, talking about squeezy, into a onesie. There we go. Okay, I'll only give you one. I'll be kind. Who is the founder of Christianity? Right? No silliness, no KFC, Haraboji, no Ronald McDonald, no the king from Burger King. Give me the correct, who is the founder of Christianity? So go ahead. That shouldn't take you long. That shouldn't be a big guessy poo, right? All right, so let me go for the eraser. All right, repeating, who is the founder of Christianity? All right. You go back to the material. This is where we ended here in dissension. Let me mark off that I asked this question. Oh, and I haven't said it for a while. You should say it for Yishuan. But that was page 72. That was page 72 and the intro added, okay? So just in case you're following along, if you have the book, which you don't have to because I make the copies for you. All right. Now, moving on to the teachings of Jesus. Following his baptism, Jesus began to preach, which means talk about in public the word of God, teaching, which can also be done in a private one-on-one or group, and perform miracles throughout Judea. As he did so, he recruited many disciples, including a core group, which is a center group, the main group of 12. And these people were referred to as the apostles. At the beginning of his ministry, Jesus restricted his work to his fellow Jews. Yes, people, Jesus was a Jew. Okay. But it wasn't long before Jesus broadened his preaching to include non-Jews, and people who were not Jewish were called Gentiles, right? Gentiles. Jesus' style of delivery is said to have been charismatic. I think most people here know about charismatic. It means when you have charisma, when however you act or the way you speak, people cannot stop looking at you. They're interested, not because you're wearing a weird party hat, because you have a certain charisma about you. So his style of delivery is said to have been charismatic with great moral authority. So when you have moral authority, that means you actually are living the way that you're preaching, right? It's easy for the average fellow to say, you, for example, like you shouldn't drink alcohol and you shouldn't smoke and you shouldn't do, A, B, or C. And then you find out that person has alcohol every weekend and smokes cigarettes every day, right? There's no moral authority there. So whatever Jesus was saying, he was actually living the life, being the example. He spoke in the form of parables. Parables are like sayings, and of the coming of the kingdom of God. Yes, the coming of God. He was also a healer, which means he healed people, raising the man Lazarus from the dead and curing a woman of an effusion of blood. The Gospels record that he was a miracle worker, that he calmed the sea. Imagine that. Tell some guy, okay, the sea is rough and ships are sinking. Go out there and make it calm. Wow. He changed the water into wine and fed the multitudes, which means the masses, all the peoples, with only a few fish and loaves of bread. He was accused of challenging existing laws. They'd say, hey, we got our laws. What are you talking about? What are you trying to change? You bum, right? Romans didn't like that at all. While he insisted, he fulfilled them. So whatever changes he talked about, he actually did them. However, he often performed miracles on the Sabbath, which is considered the day of rest. And it was a violation of Jewish law. You're not supposed to work on those days, right? Let alone perform miracles. Okay. So I have some more. As Jesus' fame and reputation grew, so did the resentment of the authorities. So when you resent them, it's kind of like hating. So he was kind of hated by the authorities. Perhaps, or maybe it was Jesus' dramatic visit to a Jerusalem temple that sparked the authorities to take direct action before they were kind of just putting up with him. Merchants used the temple to conduct their businesses, and Jesus cast them out or threw them out, saying that the temple was a house of prayer and not a den of thieves. So what he observed in there was, I mean, people can tell you, like it says here, right? Merchants use the temple to conduct their business, right? It's kind of like the doublespeak we have now in the media. But he was there firsthand and saw, and people were getting cheated and money was getting stolen, right? So that's why he said, this is not a den of thieves. Who knows? Maybe if they conducted correct business and were not cheating customers or flat out stealing money, he wouldn't have had to do anything, right? Everything would have been cool. But he felt it was an insult, okay, in the temple to do that. When Jesus was questioned by Jewish leaders, his answers riled them or made them angry. He claimed that he was the Son of God, and the highest commandment is to love God. Now, can you imagine that? Just think about that. You get some guy that rolls into your town, or let's just make it present day as much as we can. All right. You get some guy and he rolls into downtown or the K-town, right? And he starts going around to the churches and telling them what they should do, and they should change some things. And they go, who is this crazy guy? Nobody recognizes this guy. They don't do too much, even when the changes he puts forth kind of take place and are good. And then he suddenly says, guess what, folks? My K-Town churchgoers, I'm the Son of God, and the highest commandment is to love God. They're going to say, this guy is nuts, right? And it was the same issue then in Judea, right? Because he didn't have a photo with God or a video or his degree or anything that showed proof. He just said it, I am, right? And people are supposed to respect that. All right, now we go to the crucifixion. The most important celebration for Jews at that time was the Passover meal on the first evening of the festival. Supporters of Jesus had made arrangements for him and his followers to hold their celebration in an upper room they had prepared. At the meal, now called the Last Supper, Jesus' 12 disciples were in attendance. It was there that Jesus established the new covenant. So the covenant, I talked about the covenant before. It's kind of like a contract agreement between spiritual and the regular people. by instituting or starting the Eucharist, which is also called Holy Communion or the Lord's Supper, by sharing bread with the words, "This is my body," and wine with, "This is my blood." He told the disciples to do the same in his memory. Okay. See if I have a little bit here. Yes, I do. In an effort to deal with Jesus and to deliver him into Roman justices. So what this means is, if I didn't explain before, if you're a Catholic and you have a communion, they give you that white wafer, and that simulates the bread from earlier times. And some places do actually give you a little wine and say, "This is God's blood." So like I said, even the religious people too, they said, "Get this guy out of here. He's crazy." So they went to the Romans so they can get the soldiers, AKA police, to arrest him and get him away from what was going on. The Jewish authorities, who claimed Jesus was guilty of violating the law of Moses, which is the high law with the Jewish people, and preaching blasphemy. Blasphemy is sins, things that are not true, incorrect against God, approached Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples. So the police went to one of his disciples. It's like going to like one of your best friends, and offered him 30 pieces of silver to betray Jesus, right? Again, like today, going to your buddy and saying, "Hey, here's a couple $1,000. Why don't you help us arrest your friend there?" And I was like, "Oh, sounds good. I could use like $3,000 cash." As arranged, Judas identified who Jesus was to the authorities, because the police didn't know who he was. And there were no photos of the time. So fortunately, one of the disciples betrayed him. And they did this by kissing him on the cheek in the Garden of Gethsemane. So then the soldiers knew, okay, the person he kissed is Jesus. That was the sign. And what was he doing? He was praying with his disciples. But not such a good disciple if money is more important to him than Jesus. And thus, Jesus was arrested and brought before Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. Who's the governor? Here. Not Fauci. Fauci is the medical guy, right? We've got Pelosi. We had Schwarzenegger as the governor. So you know who it is. I don't like to say his name. He raises all those taxes. So anyway, it's like taking it to him. And on examination, Pilate couldn't find sufficient evidence against Jesus. So look at that. Not enough evidence to be guilty. But the large crowd demanded his execution. So people in the street showed up and said, "We don't care about that crap. Guilty, not guilty. We want him killed." Pilate was forced to agree to the crucifixion of Jesus. It hasn't stated that yet. I'm sure you know it, but it might be confused. Crucifixion is when they put him on the cross with nails. That is the crucifixion. According to the Gospels, Pilate then took water, washed his hands before the multitude of yelling, screaming people, protesters, you might say, people demonstrating, saying, "I am innocent of the blood of this person, see ye to it." So he felt, it's not my fault. You want to kill him. I'm not going to stand in the way, even though I'm the governor and I could protect him. So let me just wash my hands and say that I'm innocent and see you to it. Very foolish, but so much so like a politician. Politicians are never guilty, even when they lie. So yeah, he could have protected Jesus. He refused to, and then said, "I'm not guilty. Let me just wash my hands." Oh, you're going to kill him? Oh, wow. So, I have a couple of questions here. Whiteboard, pencil. Question 2. Give me some straightforward questions here. Who were the apostles? So just tell me what they represented. It wasn't stated here each person's name, so you don't have to worry about that. Other higher classes, you'd have to name every one of them, but just tell me who they were, what were they about. Okay, go ahead. Okay, you having fun with that? Again, it's one of those questions you don't have to tell me too much, but don't tell me too little. Don't, I don't want, it was a bunch of guys, or it was a gang from Hollywood. I don't want to hear that, all right? Okay, let me move on to the next question. Hopefully it'll be a good one, right? 3. And really straightforward, easy to answer. What was the crucifixion? So I just gave you a little more detail at the end too, so that should help you with this answer. So go ahead and answer what this was. Don't say it was a circus in Judea at the time and everybody went. No. So go ahead. Okay, doing okay on that. That should not be too long. Should be just enough information, right? Okay, let me go for the eraser. Repeating, who were the apostles? And what was the crucifixion? Again, it was not a circus in early Judea. Right, that's erased. Go back to the material. I have to mark off that I asked these 2 questions for you. I don't want to lose the spot. Okie dokie. So let me proceed. The resurrection. Okay, again, another important area here. As written in the Gospels, Jesus was hanged on a cross to die. One of Jesus' followers requested and received permission to bury him, right? After the Romans felt, okay, he's dead now. He laid Jesus' body in a cave and covered the opening with a heavy stone. So they didn't have the iron gates like we do now, I guess. Or so they just, hey, we got to put this heavy stone and block the opening of this cave. This took place on Friday, the day before the Sabbath. On the day after the Sabbath, which would be Sunday, however, women followers of Jesus went to prepare his body, dead body that is, wash it, put the perfumes on it, what have you, and discovered that the stone had been rolled away from the entrance to the cave. Who could have done this? An angel then appeared and told them Jesus was alive, that he had risen from the dead. Jesus revealed himself first to Mary Magdalene. Later at Pentecost, Jesus appeared to his disciples and commanded them to take disciples of all nations in the world, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. During the weeks that followed, many who had known Jesus reported seeing him alive. They believed he had risen from the dead. That means to resurrect. 40 days after his resurrection, the disciples said they saw Jesus lifted up into heaven, supposedly when he was taken to be with his Father, God. And that was the last time they saw him. Imagine seeing something like that. First off, your best friend died. You saw him killed. And then a couple of days later, you see him walking. What the hell? Pardon the blasphemy. But then he speaks and tells people what to do. And then later you see him lifted up into the heavens by God. What things to see. Wow. Better than any science fiction CGI movie, I tell you, because it's real, right? Okay. All right, so that was a quick one. So I will have a question there before I move on to the next movement. Did I get my pencil? Oh dear. All right, question 4. You know what it's going to be. Straightforward. What was the resurrection? Okay. Have at it. No funny stuff. Okay. Hopefully, you can word it in 2 different ways. What happened first? What followed? Okay. All right, that should be enough on that. Eraser, repeating, what was the resurrection? Okay. Back to the material. So just make sure you're not confused. I jumped ahead. So if I go back, there it is, the resurrection. So just moving forward a step. Now we move into the holy writings. The holy book of Christianity is the Bible. Just like if you remember in Islam, it is the Quran. It is divided into two segments, the Old Testament and the New Testament. The word testament means witness, okay? Witness. Generally speaking, the average Christian looks at the Old Testament, also known as the Hebrew Bible. Again, Christianity came from Judaism, as part that concerns the Jews, their history, and their prophecies. And the New Testament as the part that concerns Jesus and his apostles. Do you remember the number? Yeah, I think it was 2. No, it was maybe 7. No, 12. While that could be looked at as an oversimplification, which means making things too simple, it is nonetheless a very adequate or sufficient way of approaching the Bible. There is no question that the Bible's impact or power has been and continues to be immeasurable. You cannot measure it. You cannot quantify it. Exactly how important was the impact? The survival of the Jewish religion, for instance, and its subsequent or following influence in the history of Western culture are direct results of biblical writings. Now it looks like I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just checking because it has to match my book. See, it jumps. Okay, so back to the previous. We're in the Holy Writings. And I do have a question here. This will be question 5. I forgot to mark off 4, which was what was the resurrection. I don't want to jump ahead too much. Okay. Here we go. Question 5. Okay, is this thing gonna write for me? What's going on? I got the pencil, right? There we go. You know, that looks pretty as a Tuesday, so I won't even try. It looks pretty. So what are the two segments that the Bible is divided into? So talk to me, explain the two segments and what they are, their differences, okay? If you only answer one, you won't get the full credit. So go ahead. Take your time on that one. You have to write a little bit more on this one. Okay. Grab the eraser. Repeating, what are the two segments that the Bible is divided into? And I went into that right before I asked the question. So information should be fresh on your mind. Okay. It's done. Let me mark down that I asked you question 5. That means we're at the halfway point. We finished half of our questions. So we're rolling along quite well. Okay. So we finished the Holy Writings, and we shall move on next to rituals and customs. Okay. Rituals and customs. Different denominations. Again, if I tell you modern Christianity, you have Methodists, Baptists, Lutherans, okay? These are different denominations of Christianity. Different denominations celebrate varying or differing rites, festivals, and sacraments, or holy things. The Protestant church tends to be less formal than the Orthodox church and Roman Catholic ones. The following are the common rituals and customs performed in Christianity, or all of Christianity. Remember, anytime you hear the word Orthodox, it means the old way, the strict way, right? The modern way. Most people cannot do the Orthodox. Very difficult. Okay, prayer, number 1. Match up my book here. Very good. It is prayer that forms the backbone of Christian religious life. Although specified periods for communal, that means group prayer, are not set, unlike in some other religions, Sunday is usually the chosen day for Christians. This is not only the first day of the week, but also the day on which Jesus rose from the dead. The typical place for prayer is the church. However, Christians are also urged or encouraged to pray regularly, either in public or in private. While prayers are said frequently for someone who is ill or sick, prayers, whether by a group or individual, can cover almost every kind of need or occasion. They are used to thank God for his gifts, to ask for forgiveness. This is what prayers are used for. And to petition or ask for blessings and favors. Prayer has been described as a pilgrimage of the spirit. Many people consider it the purest form of religious expression. It expresses the desire to enter into a personal and constant, intimate relationship with God. That's why people will tell you your most intimate relationship with God is your prayer, right? And for many open-minded people, that is the most important part of your relationship with God. Even more important than going to a specified church. Okay. Again, let me just check here. Okay, good. I have a question with prayer. Grab that pencil. The prayer question will be question 6. Again, it looks pretty cool as a 2. Won't touch it. What is the backbone of Christian religious life? So write me a sentence or 2 on that. Okay, and for each one, that's coming from page 81. Okay, 81 in the book. So go ahead. Okay, you think you got that? That should not be too difficult, right? Don't say something like, what is the backbone of Christian religious life? Oh, going to church. No, it's not. Okay, you know what it is. All right. Get the eraser. Repeating, what is the backbone or the core, the center of Christian religious life? Right, back to the material. Right. Oops, what am I going to the whiteboard for? I was just there. Must be losing my mind. There we go. So we ended with prayer. Let's move on to, first let me mark off that I asked question 6. Let's move on to baptism. Baptism marks the beginning of life as a Christian. It is the emergence or the beginning of a new person upon whom a new name is conferred or given, right? Your baptized name. It is a total annulment or cancellation of the sins of the person's past from which an innocent person emerges. So that's like, you know, I guess if you don't have any experience with religion, they'll tell you, you know, and God recruited sinners, right? Because remember, Christian Bible says we're all sinners. We all fall short of the grace of God. So especially, a lot of people make that mistake. Oh man, I've done so much sinning. Why would even I be considered to go to church? No, you're the perfect person. Okay, so if you accept this and go through baptism, now all these sins that you've committed in the past are erased, annulled, as it says here. And the new person is an innocent person, hopefully never to sin again. At least the best you can ask for is that you're not trying to. Maybe in your life before being a Christian, you just didn't care and sinned all you wanted. Now, at least this time, you will be trying your best not to. At the baptism, the person becomes a member of the church and incorporated into the body of Jesus Christ. Most Christian churches baptize babies, but some denominations baptize only adults. So that would be interesting for you. That Like I'd say, hey, go out and do a report and find out in your area which churches just baptize adults. Be an interesting thing to find out. Some churches hold that when children baptized as infants reach adulthood, they must confirm their beliefs. So they say they should, and that's some, they should get baptized again because maybe they didn't realize the importance as much when they were infants, right? They didn't really understand most things. Historically, baptism was meant for adults who were capable, see, mentally capable, of accepting the ancient liturgies or writings themselves. The Roman Catholic Church in more modern times asked adults, parents, or godparents to make the decision on behalf of the infant with the expectation that the child would accept the decision made, right? And if the child's just saying goo, goo, gaga, I think it's pretty obvious they're going to accept that. They don't know how to go against it. But if you're into the religion and it's your family, it's pretty cool. And they have the opportunity when they're an adult to reaffirm. Okay. So again, checking. Okay, there we go. Let me go back. So, I got some stuff here. So there we go. My board. Pencil. And this will be question number 7. Oops, no misspelling there. Touchy here. Okay, name. So name what it is. First, give me that there's a name to it. And then describe it. Describe that name. And what is the beginning of life as a Christian? Okay, what is it that you have to do? All right, so go ahead. That might take a little time. Okay, you guys doing okay on that? Remember, it's a two-parter here. Just don't give me one. Don't name it and then give the definition, or give the definition but forget to use the name. Go ahead. Okay, think you got that two-parter? You think you covered both parts? All right. Get the eraser. All right. Repeating, name and describe the beginning of life as a Christian. Some symbolicism. Okay. We ended here at the bottom. Accept the decision made with baptism. Let's move on to the Eucharist. First, let me mark the last question 7. Match it with the book. Okay. Here we go. Eucharist. Most formal churches, for example, Orthodox, Roman Catholic, and Anglican, which is the British, will include the celebration of the Last Supper in their services, sometimes called the Eucharist, Mass, or Holy Communion. And we touched about this a little bit earlier. Only a minister or priest is authorized to perform the ceremony. So we can't have guys like Mr. Hong coming in, hey, yo, what's up? I'm going to do the Eucharist, or, Temwajan, hey, I just went to Starbucks, let me do the Eucharist. Only a minister or priest. Next, we have the confirmation. Confirmation usually takes place in adolescence, teenage years, or adulthood. In some traditions, it is seen as a confirmation of vows the candidate could not make for herself as a child, right? Because now their ability to speak and read, and they can make a full confirmation. Or they might argue later, well, I was an infant, I didn't know what was going on. I just had to accept what my parents put me into. In both Anglicanism and Lutheranism, confirmation is generally preceded by instruction in the Catechism. That's what you have to learn. Even as an adult, let's say you wanted to marry, you're not a religious guy and you want to marry a Catholic lady, and the church says, well, she's got to have a Catholic wedding, okay? And they want you to become a Catholic too. So you just can't say, okay, hey, like some of the friends that I've had, hey, just let me go through the wedding, the symbolism, let me use your church, and I'll pop into being a Catholic next year. No. They will postpone your marriage, and you must take a year of Catholic study, which is called as it's stated here, Catechism. And then after you graduate that, you can do your confirmation and what have you, and then get married. You're a Catholic. Other Protestants deny that confirmation is a sacrament, right? Something holy, but they do sometimes use the term to mark the transition of baptized members into full membership in the church, including the right to receive Holy Communion. Okay, and then let's hit marriage. Christianity has contributed to a spiritualization of marriage and family life, which means it gives spiritual components. It's not just the one where you go down to City Hall and sign the paper in front of a judge. No, this gives spiritual meaning to your marriage and symbolism. Marriage can be called the most intimate form in which the fellowship of believers is realized. In many traditions, there is respect for those who choose not to marry, monks, nuns, and Roman Catholic priests, right? For instance, it says, but all Christians regard marriage as a serious step and a commitment, as marriage vows are made before God. Right. So out of that material, I have a question. Try to keep it easy. This will be question 8. Okay, now I can stretch this. Bingo bongo. Okay. What is celebrated at the Eucharist? We talked about this in 2 different occasions, so just let me know what is celebrated. Okay. Is it New Year's Day or what's the meaning? Okay. So go ahead. Okay, you think you got a hold on that? All right, so we're not celebrating Hamburger Day or Donut Day, right? Something more important, but hint, hint. Okay, eraser. 8, what is celebrated at the Eucharist? Okay, back to the material. And if we've done 8 questions, that means we only got 2 more to go. So that means we're getting close to the end of the reading, right? But who knows what I'll do. Sometimes recently I've only given you 9, so it might be closer than you think. Okay, we move on to death, a big issue there. Death. Christians believe that death is not the end of life. Because why? Because Jesus taught and promised eternal life for all believers. And I've heard that ever since I was a kid. If you believe in God and get baptized, you will live forever. Not meaning your physical body, but your spirit and your soul. At the funeral service, the body of the dead person is commemorated and comfort is offered to the bereaved. That's the people, the survivors, the saddened. To be bereaved is to be sad, heavily sad. The deceased is committed, or the dead body is brought into God's care. Thereafter, the body is buried or cremated, which means burned, depending on the wishes of the deceased dead person or the tradition of the person's church. Next, religious festivals and holidays. It may surprise even devout or devoted Christians to learn that there are more than a dozen holy days of obligation in the Catholic Church. And don't worry, I will not go into all of them, only a basic few. Trying to make it easy on you guys. It is not Easter and Christmas that command the attention of the faithful, right? Like I said, you could be a Christian, but you really don't practice your faith. And then you're caught up into Christmas and Easter because of the shopping. But for the faithful, who their religion is most important, there are holy days in every season of the calendar. Christmas Day. Christmas is the feast of the Nativity of Jesus, celebrated in Roman Catholic and Protestant churches on December 25th. The observance of Christmas did not become widespread until the 4th century. Well, not a lot of people were celebrating Christmas, or how some people in that church would say Christmas. And that was not until the 4th century. The date was likely chosen for its proximity or closeness to the Epiphany, which in the East originally included a commemoration of the nativity or the birth of Jesus. Is there more? Is there more? Yes. Okay, so here we go, deeper into the Epiphany. Epiphany, the word epiphany refers to a sudden understanding of something, usually of divine power. So something you did not understand. Now it's put in common words with regular folks. People will say, oh, one day I had an epiphany, which means they suddenly understood something that they had a very hard time understanding before and could not. It is a prime Christian feast celebrated on January 6th, also called 12th Day or Little Christmas. Next, we have Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday is the first day of Lent, a period of preparation for Easter. On this day, ashes are placed on the foreheads of the faithful to remind them of death, the sorrow they should feel on their sins, and the necessity of changing their lives. So when you see people, and I've had them in my classes, I get a nice cross mix of people from different faiths, and then they come into class, like when I teach nighttime, and then they have like some black ash on their forehead. Well, they're going to Lent, they're a Catholic, right? Next, we have Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday in the Christian calendar is the Sunday before Easter and the first day of the Holy Week. The palms recall the time of Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, riding upon an ass or donkey when his followers shouted, Hosanna, and scattered palms in his path. And then we have Easter. Okay. Easter is the chief Christian feast commemorating the resurrection of Jesus after his crucifixion. Now we know those terms, resurrection and crucifixion. In the West, Easter is celebrated on the Sunday following the first full moon after the vernal equinox. The Orthodox Eastern Church calculates Easter differently. Again, Orthodox, very strict, and that's the Eastern Orthodox. Thus, the Orthodox Easter comes several weeks after that of the West. Now, I'm pretty sure that's the end of the reading. Let me check. Yay, it is. Okay, so let me go on to my last two questions here, and we shall be officially done for the day. Gonna end up a little early this week. I hope that doesn't make you angry. I hope you're happy with that decision. If not, we could do an extra hour. It's up to you. Okay. Question 9. Let's see if I can stretch this. Yes, sir, Bob. Okay. So what did Jesus promise for all believers? So don't be funny. Well, he promised a double with a large Coke and French fries. No, that's not what he promised. Okay. Or like a lot of girls I've had. Oh, he promised to buy a new car? No. So go ahead, have at it. And then I'll ask you the last question for the day. Okay, you think you got a hold of that? You know, it's not the hamburger deal, right? Or the car deal. Okay, let me mark down that I asked you that question. And we move on to the last question of the day. Oh, I got my pencil. Okay. Question 10. Okay, I can squeeze this. Squeezy peasy. Sausagey peasy. Okay. There we go. It's a onesie. So list some Christian festivals and holidays. We just went through that last. Again, if you list one, that says some, so that's more than one, you won't get that many points. So if you list two, you get more points. If you list three, you get more points. But I didn't give you a lot. If you want to name one that I didn't name that you know because you're a Catholic, go ahead. All right. Up to you. The more you list, the more you get, but it doesn't have to be extensive. So go ahead. Okay, you think you got a hold on that? Good deal. Let me get the eraser. Repeating 9, what did Jesus promise for all believers? 10, list some Christian festivals and holidays. Okay. So, hello, folks. There we are back at the beginning. So, that's it. We finished the lesson for November the 22nd, 2021. Theme was Christianity. So, I shall see you next week, and hopefully you have a good and exciting Thanksgiving. Eat a lot of turkey, mashed potatoes, and pumpkin pie. Okay. So I'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.